Hey guys, hello, Natalie Cutler-Welsh here, and I'm sitting here with the awesome Ina Neal.
Hello.
And today we're doing another series of the Impact Entrepreneur video series that I've been doing. Now this is, I think, super important and exciting because what I'm doing is basically shining the light, sharing tips and tools and strategies to help raise resilience and happiness and mental health in New Zealand by basically sharing some good stuff. And I look forward to the comments below because today we're talking about emotional intelligence. Yes. So you guys, I'm going to kick it off by saying to Ina, I'd love it if you could introduce yourself to people by letting us know how is it that you help people, because this is a huge part of what you do, emotional intelligence, and how did you get to this point?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ina Neal, and I'm from Inner Lighten. So I am a transformational life coach where I help people through workshops and private coaching, basically begin to connect back with who they are emotionally and begin to use their guidance system, which is their emotions, to find their joy and guide them in their direction. And how I got to that place is because I was very disconnected. I'm a mom of four, and that was my thing. I don't know if, I'm sure many people can relate to that. We kind of get into that place of what our role in life is, and we begin to live in autopilot.
Yeah.
That's who I am, and that's what I do. And so that's where I was. And what I found was the more I did that, the less I was aware of my own emotional guidance system. I began to, as we do, get further and further away with it. If we don't use it, we lose it. And so I began to look outside of myself. I began to look at my children and my husband and my situation and want those things to change for me to be happy. And that brought me to a place of depression and a lot of sadness and a lot of blame. And one morning I woke up and I realized, what if I'm doing this all wrong? And so I allowed myself to kind of sit in that question. And when I did that, that's when things began to come up for me. And I began to explore my own emotions and my own guidance system. And when I began to do that, I had this desire to want to share it with others. And so that's how we're here.
Thank you for your honesty. I think you did what a lot of people do, which is the kind of point the finger thing, going like, if only you could do this, then I would be happy. And I definitely did that too when my kids were little. I wanted to mention the way that Ina and I met. I don't actually know, maybe Amy Macaulay, probably.
Or Karen.
Karen Newbold, yes. So often we find, that's what I'm doing too. I'm wanting to like highlight these people and help connect people. So maybe if you're listening, you might go, my life is sweet, but oh my God, I know someone who could really do with Ina's help. And that's kind of why I love shining the light. But I called on Ina to help me when I think it was a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, when my girl was going through a hard time. Fear. And I've had a few people in the past have similar things, fear of abduction, not alien, but like, just other people, that kind of thing, like checking all the doors at night and that's, so not feeling safe. And then my boy with his alopecia, and I wanted to make sure that he was confident and he wasn't getting bullied, but I was nervous that he would. So I brought Ina in as a children's life coach into my life, and we did some exercises. Hopefully, one or two, one exercise maybe that you'll share with us today. I'll ask you that later on. Would be amazing. So emotional intelligence, such an interesting topic. I was just on a cruise with my kids, and it was literally with my kids. Like my husband, it was a no husband's trip. So it was me and the kids, 9 days with my sister and her kids. But anyway, lying at night in the bunks, which I hadn't really thought about how scary that would feel at night. But anyway, we did have some interesting conversations, and I started talking to them about emotional intelligence. And I said, do you guys know what that is and how that's different from IQ? And so for those people that are watching, if you don't know, I'm going to hand over to Ina. Can you explain to people what exactly is emotional intelligence compared to what we know, IQ?
Yeah. Okay. Emotional intelligence is basically is using your emotions as your guide. right? Think about it like this. When we were babies and we were first born, or, up to a year old, and we didn't speak, we used our guidance system to communicate with our parents, with our moms and our dads, right? And we know that it worked because how many times have you heard a new mom, whether it's a first or second or third or fourth or 10th child, say, I know the difference between whether my child is crying because they're hungry, or crying because they just want to be held, or crying because they're hurt. I can hear it, but more than that, they actually feel it. And so we get guided into that space. So we are born to be led by our emotions. But as we grow up and as we look in the outside world, we begin to get taught that it's our mental health, it's our mental intelligence that should be our guide. And so we begin to get into that space of constantly just using our minds. And we're not using our guidance system and our emotions. And that's where that disconnection happens.
So when you just jumping in, so when people use their mind, we're not just talking about school smarts and intelligence. We're talking about how people often will think, and analyze and try to
find
work
solutions.
It out rather than honing it. I totally do that. I got to figure this out in my brain. Yeah. So you're talking about going
I'm
deeper.
talking about going within your emotional guidance system. That's right. I'm talking about going into what it feels like. What does this feel like? So what I teach is awakening that part of you, because we all have it. We just don't, if we don't use it, then we lose it, like I said earlier. And so I teach you to awaken that part of you and to allow that part of you to become the guider, and then loving your brain and your mind to act as the servant. So for example, if I'm wanting to find a solution to helping my child through a challenge, for example, right?
Yeah.
And so I go into my body, and I open my space up, and I do that through techniques and things like that I can teach you. I mean, I can't teach it here in the 20 minutes, but we
want to see you go into your body.
Yeah, we go into our body, and we begin to feel what it is that we are, first of all, worried about, right? What it is that we are concerned about. Where do we feel that in our body? And when we allow ourselves to feel it, then we can open up the space of, okay, how can I now serve my child? And then we begin to use our mental intelligence, our mind, to, okay, well, what can I do? Maybe I can call this person, or all of a sudden you get an idea, an inspired thought of, I spoke to somebody about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and they said that they knew someone. When we begin to open our emotions and step into that space, we actually begin to get inspired ideas by our mind. So the way I kind of explain it is, we are giving ourselves permission to guide through our feelings, and then we use our mind as that loving servant to take us where we need to go. And so the space of worry becomes shorter and shorter, because now we find the solutions rather than, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? We're cluttering ourselves. We often wake up in the morning and we shower and we cleanse our body and we clean our home, but we forget to cleanse our spirit and our emotions. And when we can do that is when we open up the space to be able to find the solutions.
And do you find some people are naturally more predisposed or better at honing in on their feelings rather than getting stuck in that headspace? Is it something that you can train yourself to be better at? But some people are just better at it.
Some people are better at it. It's kind of like, think about somebody that plays basketball. Some people have that natural, innate ability to play basketball. They're just naturally good at it. But somebody else, for example, that isn't, but has a desire to play basketball, can, become much better if that person just relies on what he has naturally, whereas the other person trains and works at it and becomes really good. That other person, which we've seen so many times in our lives, become really, really good. So yes, some people have that innate, more natural ability. It also depends on, were you raised more focused on how does it feel rather than what do you think? And so everybody has it. Some people are a little bit more naturally in tune with it. But absolutely everyone has this guidance system, and everyone can hone in and become good at relying on that part. So yeah, if you don't feel like you do, You don't worry, you absolutely can. You have it. You already have it. You already have it.
So it's interesting because we're talking about like listening to yourself, intuition, what you already know. And then the other part of it, I imagine, and the conversations I was having with my kids was more around relationships with other people. And I do have one child, one of my children, for example, who's naturally very high EQ, emotional intelligence, being aware of how others feel and adapting to suit. And then another child who not so much, like just not so much. It's more about like what he sees and what serves him. And so that's where the conversation was coming from. I was like, hey, it would be really great to tap into your emotional intelligence more and think about how this and I know what it was. We were with the cousins. We had another friend with us on the boat, and I wanted to make sure everyone felt included, but I also wanted to make sure everyone had their own space and their own time. And my friend who was with us was like really wanting her child to get in there and be involved. And I said, maybe he actually likes his own space and his own time. I said, I've got a friend, or one of my kids' friends. He's like a one-man dog, meaning he has a couple friends and he's happy. But the mom is super social and she likes having tons of friends. And I was just saying to this mom, like, I know you're super social, but he probably enjoys a little bit of quiet time because he's an only child. He's not used to having people around him 24/7. And I wasn't telling her what to do, but I was just planting the seed that maybe he's actually cool with not being in on the group all the time, because for him, that's like a big shift. What are your thoughts on encouraging our children to just, how can we help them, be more emotionally intelligent for the greater good of other people in their life, not just for their own decisions and their own anxiety or whatever?
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good question. It's a really, really big question.
I know.
And I'm glad you asked it, though. And
well, so respecting their individuality.
I'm going to give you the most simplest way that I can to serve as many as I can. Yeah. And that is really, what do our children need for them to be able to use their own guidance system to be able to tell you what they need? Right? Is that kind of what you're asking? So children really need, I'm going to break it down into 3 steps, but they kind of blend into each other. So the first thing they need is, which we all need, is we need to be heard. Children need to be heard. Right? And so as parents, we love our children so much. And when we see them walking into a space and they are going through something, whether it be what we perceive, right? We perceive as shyness, right? Can very easily be something that they enjoy being more on their own. Or maybe they're feeling agitated. Maybe they're feeling angry. Maybe they're feeling bullied. Maybe they're feeling frustrated. Maybe they're feeling anxious. Right away, as parents, usually we do one of 2 things. We either are annoyed because we've seen it before and we just want them to get over it already. So don't beat yourself up if that's how you feel sometimes. And the other thing is, of course, we love them so much and we want to go into fix-it mode. And so if we find that they're being shy, we want to put them into a space of thinking they're going to be okay. We're going to put them in there and they're going to just go for it. But that's not what they need. They actually just need to be heard. They need to speak what it is that they're feeling in the moment. So just getting present with them, right? Just like I'm here with you and just being present here with you, or we're here with them and just being present here with you. What do you need? And pausing is a really powerful step that we forget to take. Right? We always, I think that the thing is, we have 1 mouth and 2 ears, use them. And I mean that lovingly. Just pause and allow them to be heard. And then the second thing they need is they actually need their needs met. And that need, again, will fuse into the first step is they need to actually be heard. So I'm saying it twice in step 1 and step 2. Listen to what they're saying. So if a child is saying, I don't want to go, respond with, I hear that you don't want to go. Honoring that. If they're saying someone is hurting me, bullying me or being mean to me, respond with, I hear you say that it hurts you when they do that to you. or when they're, so when you allow yourself to repeat what they're saying to you, you are completing an emotion that they're going through. You are allowing them to be heard, and you are allowing them to feel what it is that they're feeling. It's kind of like a computer when you think about it. When you're downloading a brand new app or something, you need to be patient and wait for that little circle to go all the way around.
I love that. That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So imagine that when you're talking to your child and you're waiting for them, not waiting for them, when you're being patient with them to be heard, imagine they are downloading their emotions. You're giving them permission to feel what they're feeling. And that's allowing them to actually raise their emotional intelligence. Mm. You're giving them permission, and they're working out that muscle, that natural muscle that they already have. And then the third step is to say, I know this is something that you say a lot, what do you need now?
I say, what do you want?
What do you want? Or what do you need now?
Yeah.
What do you need now? And sometimes it is just for you to continue to be present with them. Sometimes it's a hug. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's, okay, what is our next best step? Let's not look at the big picture. What do you think would be the next best step solution for you? And so here you are guiding them rather than trying to fix them.
This is so good on a number of levels, and I'm thinking kids, and then of course I'm thinking marriage,
to yourself,
marriage and relationships too, because
yourself. Sorry, just to say, don't forget yourself. No. Don't forget to let that download to be felt here.
That is such a good technique, I suppose. The download, because most people would know what that means. When that app, you're waiting for that app, and it's like, just allow them the space, because I'm a classic for jumping in. When my husband's saying something to me, and he's a great husband in the sense that he will talk about his emotions, but sometimes I'm like leaning forward in my chair going, come on, And so if I think about that app downloading and just allowing him to find the words, and same thing with in that scenario with the kids, with my friend, where she just wanted to rescue him or fix the situation. And, get in there, get amongst it. Mm-hmm. And I just love that. It's like, and I wrote that down, you guys, I'll put it in the notes. 1, they need to be heard. Number 2, needs met, get their needs met. And number 3, what do you need now? Which is so great, because rather than telling them, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that? Allowing them to come up with it or feel into it.
And the confidence that they receive from that is like tenfold. So you're not actually just having their need, helping them to raise their emotional guidance system. Not only are you letting them feel the feeling and heal from it, but you're actually helping them to receive their own inner confidence to be able to realize, wait, hang on, I can move through this. And what a gift we give them when they can do that, because here we are guiding them along this path. And then when they get into their 20s and 30s and 40s, they can come back to that muscle that you have guided them to learn.
And they're doing it without us there, because obviously, when kids are little and we can be the mom. Like, I had someone the other day tell me that they had a little bit of a situation at school where another child said something rude to their child and stuff. And they get to a certain age where you can intervene. And then they get to a certain age where they're like, Mom, don't, and they don't want you to intervene. So I feel like if we can arm them with these skills, where even if we weren't there and we're not there, or they don't want us to be there, they can hone in on how they feel and help deal with things.
Yeah, that's what I had to learn as a parent. I was a very big helicopter mom with my older 2 kids, and I needed to learn that.
So what is the span of your kids' age right now?
So my son is 23, my daughter is 20.
Yeah.
And then I've got another son that's 12, and my youngest daughter is 7.5.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, my purpose, and I didn't realize it then, was having these children experiencing all of these different things, having some of them be able to be in that box and be really good at putting them in that box, and them responding from that place. And then having at least one of my kids that was like, no, I'm not going in the box. He's like, I'm not going, and you need to do something about that, about yourself. And so he, through my contrast with him, through my pain with him, taught me how to come back into me and learn how to become responsible and to become that guidance rather than that fixer.
And we talked about this yesterday when I recorded a interview with Nikki Perry from Awesome Inc. We talked about gratitude journals. We talked about you can't just give a kid a gratitude journal. You have to role model as a parent. So same thing, we're tapping into our own emotions, not just telling them to tap into their own emotions.
Yeah, they don't learn from what we say. They learn from what we do. That's why my passion is not just working with kids. It began with that.
Yeah.
But it evolved into working with parents and individuals, mostly women, but I do work with some men that are aligned with me. And once they do that, once you tap into that fear, whatever that looks like for you, that pain, whatever that looks like for you, with entrepreneurs, that fear of stepping into who you are.
Yeah.
Once you tap into that, the fear doesn't necessarily go away, but when you allow yourself to feel it, when you allow yourself to tap into your own emotional guidance system and let yourself feel it, you begin to heal. And the space of walking from that space into what you want to, where you want to be, where it feels good for you to be, is a lot easier. And the span is a lot shorter. You know, the gap between the two becomes a lot shorter. And the more you do it, the gap becomes a lot shorter, which I know many entrepreneurs will experience. You do it, the gap is shorter. You do it, the gap is shorter, and the evolution of it as well. So it's never ending. You're never going to be that Cinderella with, birds putting on your cape. That's not the purpose of happiness. The purpose of happiness is tapping into who you are, feeling grounded, becoming in love with who you are through the process of it. And it's always a process. And then stepping into that space and say, I matter, I belong, and I'd like to share that with you if it serves you.
And I think it's so interesting, the resilience, a lot of resilience, I think, is knowing who we are. And sometimes we get thrown off course, which is natural. And then just coming back to who we are, which is a fascinating topic. I think this is so important because I think if we can encourage our own selves and our kids to, like, even, how do you feel or what do you need? Sometimes people don't know what they need. So the more they can get used to doing that, then as they get older and become adults, it's really equipping them for life. And now I wanted to ask you something. I had someone, maybe it was about a month or so ago, say to me, Nat, oh my gosh, no one tells you, the title of my book, right? If only they told me she could. Nobody tells you about the preteen years. She goes, nobody tells you how angry and frustrated, an 11, 12-year-old can get with all the emotions and the hormones and everything. And she goes, how frustrated. And I said, or in my case, how, I guess hers was explosive and mine was more shutdown mode, So I feel like depending on the personality, I never had the tantrum, explosive anger. I had the opposite. I had like where she wouldn't say anything. And then maybe she'd write me a little note to let me know she was upset about something that happened at school. So it's like you either have like the explosion or you have the kind of the shutdown. So can you comment on that for people or help spread any insight for people who are coming out of those, those years where they're like 8, 9, 10 and moving into the kind of preteens? What tip do you have for parents? I'm sure you have a lot of parents coming to you about this.
Yeah.
What kind of advice can you offer on that front for that age group?
Yeah.
I know you've been through it for a few times for yourself.
I have. Well, I will share my own experience. And I have done this with parents over and over again, but I feel like stories are very, very powerful. My son, who is 12 years old, he was that angry kid, but it didn't start from, so he's 12 now, but it didn't start from just recently because of hormones. It actually began from 7 years old. He was not able to control his emotions. So the moment anything happened in his life, something as simple as it's time to go take a shower. Yeah. He fell and had a meltdown. He couldn't handle the fact that that was what was being told for him to do. Remember?
Comment if you can relate to this.
Yeah. Remember that putting our kids into that box thinking that I just told them to go take a shower. My other 2 kids, when I would tell them to go take a shower, they would. How great is that? They lived in that space, and there's nothing wrong with asking your child to go take a shower, but he couldn't handle it. And so because I wasn't in touch with my emotional guidance system, I didn't know how to do those 3 things. I would have my own meltdowns. And there was no solution. There was just a lot of sadness, a lot of apologies afterwards, a lot of guilt, and a lot of pain. And so as I started to learn these tools as a coach, as I started to teach these tools, as I started to practice them with my own son, what I would recommend is doing what I had just shared. So for example, say he had that meltdown, right? And so I would begin first and foremost, and this is practice. This is practice. So if you don't do it after you've heard it like you've done it for years, don't beat yourself up about it.
There'll be another opportunity.
There's going to be another opportunity around the corner, and those opportunities are actually our gifts to be able to keep practicing. So first and foremost, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. So your child is going through, they come into the house, they're having an angry meltdown, they're having a hard time in this moment. You weren't able to gauge it earlier on because there is an onset that begins somewhere. But maybe you were busy, maybe you were cooking dinner, maybe you were in the middle of the dishes, maybe you were doing your own work and you didn't tap into that. That's okay. And so here you are in the middle of this chaos. What do? First and foremost, get present. How do you get present? Come into your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Imagine your feet just being planted directly on the ground. And some will say, well, then I'm not dealing with it. Well, hang on. In order for us to deal with things, we need to become present and we need to become quiet and grounded ourselves to be able to actually find the solution. Otherwise, we go into meltdown mode ourselves. And so get present, get quiet, take 3 deep breaths. Say to yourself something like, this is going to be okay. I got this. Turn around, lift your arms up. I sometimes I'll just lift my arms up and say, I got this. I got this, right? I got this. That diffuses your own charge, your own feeling of emotions that are starting to come up because you're just going to react. And your goal is to respond with purpose. And the only way to do that is to get present. I know I've said it for a few minutes now, but that is the most powerful step that you can get to first and foremost. So you get present. And when you can breathe and when you can get present and diffuse that energy, you can think of energy as coming down through your legs and into the ground, whatever, by any means necessary, right? For everybody, it's different. Then you can look over to your child and with a place of presence, you say in your mind or out loud, whatever they're ready to hear is, how can I serve you? What do you need in this moment? What are you feeling? I can feel that you're in pain. Or maybe it's just being there and being quiet. Whatever is needed in that moment. Usually when it's very heightened, just be present. Don't speak, just listen. Listen to them yell. Allow them to yell. Allow them to scream. Let them get through it because what they're actually doing is they are downloading their emotions. And as you are present there for them, being in their vicinity, and don't leave because then they feel abandoned. Just be present with them. And maybe they'll say, get away, go away, I don't want you there. Say, I just want to be here for you. I'll step back. You can step back. You can honor what they're asking, but just be present. I'm just here. You can probably feel that energy already diffuse because our imagination is very, very powerful, our mind. We can bring ourselves to that place and we can allow them to do that. And then just ask, once they get through that, what do you need? How can I help you? Where can we move forward from that? Maybe they just need some love. Maybe they just need a hug. Maybe they need you to say, I felt your anger, and that sucks. That must have sucked for you, and I felt that. So when we feel that, we are actually elevating their own emotional guidance system and teaching them how to honor their emotions. And then just let the evolution come. And it gets easier and it gets better.
I think the download thing is such a key. I mean, I don't know if you guys who are watching on the Facebook Live or on the Zoom, are replaying a recent scenario in your own life. I know I am, from yesterday when he did not want to go to swim lessons. And there were a few things ahead of that I could have, but didn't. Like, he fell asleep on the couch. He never falls asleep. And I saw him sleeping, and I was like, this is going to be interesting. And then he didn't want to get out of the car, and then he got into the pool area, and then he didn't want to, anyone that saw me at swimming yesterday, I was like, and I knew, here's the tricky thing, I knew I had to get Ruby, like, I was on a timeline, and I knew I needed to get him in the water to get but yeah, I probably didn't wait for the download. So
right.
That is such a good tip.
Right. And people often think,
and then I started negotiating.
Yeah, as we do.
Gosh.
And people often think that if I could just get them to go do it, it'll be shorter. It's actually much, much longer, because we're constantly trying to go with our brain. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it lengthens the time, because our kids become more and more resistant, which was evidence of that for you, right? And so what you will find is that place of getting quiet, what we're thinking in our mind is, this is going to take too long. It's actually a lot shorter. And I've actually did an experiment where I timed it within my own life. I would turn the timer on and see how long it takes to get him into the shower in a place of chaos, or when I got present and did what I just shared, that part is actually much shorter.
All right, so you guys, there you go, a little bit of homework if you want to try it. I'm sure you'll have a scenario pop up the next day or so that you can try that. Yeah, exactly. No, not everybody listening has kids, but we can apply this in our own life with anyone. It might even be somebody at work that's having a bit of a moment, or
anybody, and yourself, and it starts from yourself. So I can even share how you could do it very quickly with yourself. It's a very simple technique.
Let's do it.
It's, again, a 3-step technique, sort of 3 steps, but of course listen to your own guidance system. So if you have a pen and paper, you can get one, and if not, that's okay. The first thing you want to do is, when you're feeling any emotional charge, any fear, anything that's happening for you, any repeated pattern, many argument that you might be replaying in your head that you had with your partner, or anything that you're saying to yourself of self-doubt. Maybe you are wanting to get better at taking care of your body, and you didn't do that today, and you're replaying in your mind, you're useless, you're never going to get this done, right? The first thing you want to do is you want to name it. You want to say what it is that you're saying to yourself, and you want to say the feeling that is coming up for you. So if it's something that you are beating yourself up about, name it. I am saying this to myself, and write it down. And then come into your body, and what emotion is it bringing up for you? Is it bringing up sadness? Is it bringing up depression? Is it bringing up anxiety? Is it bringing, whatever it is, frustration? Say it, and then write that down. And the thing with
what do you mean with say it? Do you mean say frustration?
Say it out loud. I am frustrated.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel frustrated.
Yeah.
Can you tell, in energy-wise, how much that actually diffuses the feeling of frustration when you actually put a word to it and say that's what it is? And write that down. And what happens is you become the observer rather than the liver of it.
Okay.
And then second step is feel the feeling. What does it feel like to be frustrated? Where do I feel it in my body? Is it in my head? Touch it. Is it in my throat? Is it in my heart? Is it in my stomach? Many times for women particularly, it's in that stomach area, whether it's below or above your belly button. And breathe into it. 30 seconds. Breathe into that emotion. And what you've just done is you've downloaded that.
Right.
And you've opened up the space. And the third thing is, okay, what do I need from that space? It might mean I need to go take a walk. It might mean I need to go take a bath. It might mean I want to, maybe I could just do a 5-minute yoga on YouTube, right? You just right away find a solution. And then you will find your next best step. But when we're looking at it from a place of I'm feeling this and I don't know what to do with it, then the problem looks much bigger, and then we can't get to it.
If you guys are up for it, watching the live or the replay, comment below. Let us know what is one word. For me, it would be frustrated, for sure. And it's interesting replaying the scenario. And it's not so much, oh, I'm useless. What if, like, I suck, I'm a crappy mom. I don't do that. I go, I'm done.
Yeah.
I go like, I'm so over it. Like that. And so, you know, rather than pointing the finger at me, I kind of go like, I'm so done right now. And then in my brain, I'll go, I'm getting a nanny. My husband's going to have to drop down to part-time. I just want to work more. It's so much easier.
Yeah. And so what you do is, and that's okay. So not to punish yourself for it, but what you're doing is you're denying yourself.
Right.
And so what'll happen is it's going to show up again.
Yeah, no kidding. So I write down, I'm frustrated. I feel it. And then I'd have to I'd have to feel into it. Be like, where do I feel that in my body in the moment? And then what do I need?
Yeah.
A break.
Yeah. And sometimes feeling the feeling might take 30 seconds and sometimes it might take 2 minutes. But what is 2 minutes if you can let go of that energy?
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, hey, there you go. I just put mine out there, frustrated. If you're up for it, comment below. Let us know what that emotion is. Do you find people have similar emotion popping up?
We all have the same emotions.
Right.
Our experiences are all different.
Yeah.
We can look outside of us and look at, you know, whether it's work or an employee or a boss or a child or a husband or a home, something broke down. Our experiences are all different and honor those. That's fine. But our emotions are all the same. We have the same emotions that we go through. Doesn't mean that we respond with the same emotion, but we are all feeling the same. And that's where our connection lies.
There we go. Awesome. That's so helpful. So thank you so much, Ina. You've given us a couple of activities. I've made some notes, you guys, so I'll go ahead and kind of include those. And you can check out the rest of the Impact Entrepreneur series on my page. So I'll put the link there as well. Hey, so if people want to get in touch with you, I know, can you tell us a little bit more? Like, I know you and I worked together one-on-one. I think it was about a 6-week thing that we did or something like that. But you also do workshops in person and school holidays. Can you give people a little bit of an idea if they want to follow you or contact you to maybe help in their own life?
Absolutely. So my website is called innerlightened.com. My Facebook page is Innerlightened. You can also find me on Ina Neal Innerlightened as well, because I post a lot there as well. So I run workshops. I'm a big workshop person, and the reason why is because I feel like conversations are great and one-offs are great. I'm not downing them, because my purpose on any conversation that I ever have is to inspire you, to remind you that we are all connected, and that might be enough for you. But I find that workshops where we spend some time together, we actually create that neural pathway, that muscle in being able to live more and more into that space. And of course, that connection. So I've done workshops online, but at the moment I have children's workshops, and I do them in the school term out in Hawick. And that is powerful and incredible. So I run 5 different ones, and they're on resilience, on me power, on inner power, on dream power. And you'll find all of the description of that on my website. And so I do that in Hawick, and that's during term. I also run holiday workshops for children during the holidays, and that's a more intensive, and that's great as well. But I also run women's workshop, and at the moment I launched one yesterday, and it's called the Creative Vision Workshop, and it's about creating how you want to live your life, and it's a 4-week workshop, and it's mind-blowing. I launched the first one in January, and now I launched one again yesterday, and I will be having another one show up come up because it's been absolutely amazing. I also work one-on-one through a program that we do. And I also do one-offs where if you might just need some time right here for an hour and a half to 2 hours where I help you align and take you through meditation to come back into your body and to just remind you of who you are. I always say, I'm not here to teach you anything new. I'm just here to remind you because I was reminded, because we all have it.
I think that what you do is empower people to live with intention, because so often it's easy to get into that reactive mode, which was the example that I gave before, me and my boy at swimming, totally reacting. Whereas if you can come from an empowered place and be aware of your emotions, it shifts everything for everybody. And I think sometimes we lapse out of that and we just need someone to help.
Did you see what you just did? Sorry, just to say,
no.
When you said coming into from that empowered place, you went into your body. That's where it lives. And so your muscle for that is obviously there. We all have it, right? We all have it. It's just about coming back into it and honoring our mind, our mental health, to be the server rather than the doer and guider.
Now, I always ask in these interviews, because this is part of my Impact Entrepreneur series, is there a certain charity, organization that you really contribute to, or that you want to do a shout out to at all?
Okay, so I do charity. So it's, for me, it's more of a monthly thing. Who would I like to contribute to? Who would I'd like to give to? And it's usually for children, because that's where I began. And I've got my own children, and that's kind of where I'm being guided.
Yeah.
But it's really great that you asked me, because it was over the weekend. I was in the car with my 23-year-old son. We were spending the morning together, and he looked over to me while he was driving, and he said to me, "Mama, if you were a philanthropist and you had a lot of money that you just want to put into one charity, what would it be?"
Good question.
Yeah, it was a great question. I was like, wow, thank you for asking. Thank you for awakening me to that, right? Because when we're entrepreneurs, we're in so much of the doing that we need to stop and reflect, that's how I see things. And I needed to stop and reflect. And I started to think about, I said, that is hard for me, because for me, it would be to a charity, to a place, to an organization that empowers children, that helps them to find their guidance system, that helps them shine who they are, to remind them their true natural state, which is their light that lives not in the box, but really outside of the box. And so I had to think about it for a minute, and I said, do you know what? I don't know of any place. And I did try to look for one, because when I was learning these skills myself, I wanted my children to be empowered as well, which is why I became a children's life coach, because I couldn't find anything. And then I thought, hang on, that's what I do. And so, of course, the next step was, what do I do about that? And so watch this space, because my next step is, and I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, is to create an organization where I would like to use my time to come into low decile schools and donate my time to children that are struggling with that, and they don't have the resources to be able to find their own inner being. So for me, it's going to be about going into schools. At least that's what it looks like for me now, starting to go into schools. So it's going to be that organization that I'm going to start to open up to, which I will begin to share on my Facebook page and in my website.
Amazing. I think that's great. And the other thing that can come up, hey, Amy, what do you know? Look who's here. The other thing with that is, I love asking that question, because it just awakens people to what other organizations are out there, or who they can connect with. They might be like, oh my God, I want you to come into my school. I know my friend Anita from I Got Your Backpack. That's one of the organizations that I contribute to regularly, helping women flee domestic violence. But she's also creating a Hope Box, which is around education and emotions in schools. So it's like me going, oh, I'm the go-to girl. I love connecting people. Boom, I got to connect you with Anita, both doing amazing things. Hey, you guys, guess who was on the cruise with me? Sitting there reading my book, I look up and I'm like, oh, Mike King is sitting across from me at the pool. So we ended up meeting and chatting and whatever. So I'm not going to start my own charity organization, but I just want to connect people to ones that already exist, that are already doing amazing things. But like you said, there'll be certain things that pull at our heartstrings. And for me, I don't know why, but it is kids in hospital is something that like makes me so emotional. And then when Jonah lost his hair, and he was actually fine, but he looks really sick, but he's actually fine. But then there are kids out there that really are sick. And I'm very into proactive wellness and healthcare, and I prefer the kids didn't even have to go to the hospital, but I just have this thing like Ronald McDonald House, Starship, for me, those are really, there's so many important charities out there, but I do think helping kids acknowledge and process their emotions from a young age so that they grow up into adults that know how to do that is game changing. And so the work you do, thank you so much. Not just what you did for my family, but for all these people, the work that you do, or even any work that anyone's doing out there, helping kids to acknowledge how they feel, allowing time to download stop talking, right? Allow them to hone into how they feel instead of telling them how they should feel or what they should do.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so many good lessons today.
That's
Thank you, Ina, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that.
Yeah, anything else that you just want to wrap up with before we say farewell?
No, actually, the only thing that I would like to say is if there is someone out there that is already working with children in schools, that this resonates with you, reach out to me, because I am open to that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to that, and I'm ready to move into that space. Like I said, I don't know what it's going to look like yet. In January, I put on my goal sheet on my vision board, go into schools, and I thought it's going to look like just taking my skills and taking my workshops into schools, and I began to go into the schools that are more high decile, right? And so the universe has a different plan for us. And with my son sitting next to me and saying, what about this, in a very different way, that's how I'd like to make an impact. So if there's anyone out there that knows a school that is in need, that there's children that are struggling with mental health, I would love to come in. I would love to share and see just whatever it's going to look like. So definitely reach out.
Amazing. And as you said that, I suddenly thought of someone else I'm going to introduce you to, which is so exciting, because that's what I realized a few months ago, you guys. I want to help the people who help the people. And that's really what I'm doing with this. And I said to Ina before, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing with this, but I'm just interviewing people and having these conscious conversations, because that's what I know how to do. I don't know where it's going. We're just going to follow it. But I want to help the people who help the people. I don't need to go into all the schools. I mean, I can go into schools, I can speak, no problem. But we need a lot of people, to spread that message or to awaken people. So yeah, you guys get in touch with Ina if you can help in any way. Get in touch with me if you want, and I can help connect you, because that's what I do. Thank you for joining us, you guys. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Impact Entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.